when I was young, I didn't think twice about, oh, that's a boy and that's a girl. But then when you start going through puberty and you start getting older, you're wanted to be that boy. I wanted to go hang out with the boys. I wanted to have a short haircut. I wanted to be able to take my shirt off when I went swimming. There is things that I greatly, greatly, greatly not only wanted but needed, but I felt like I didn't have any control over. Anxiety from not feeling right in my body, but also getting praise as a female for doing these miraculous things.
Very nice seeing you, Mason.
Nice seeing you too, Alberto. How you doing?
Go ahead. You want to introduce yourself?
Yep, my name is Mason, and I've been seeing Alberto here for, oh man, it's been a couple of years now, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, and you've really helped me overcome a lot of the obstacles that were invited into my life, unfortunately. But I feel that with your help and your knowledge, you've been super helpful in my life, and I'm really appreciative of that.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that's how it is for you. So yes, I mean for the people just for the first time, I mean seeing you
Hmm.
is that you came. We start working like wow, but 2018 or something like that.
Yep, 2018. I think that sounds right.
That was very, I mean, a great experience for me because I mean I don't have things figured out. There is no one size fits all when
Hmm.
I'm coaching people into their emotional situations, troubles, or challenges. And when I work with you, I just took you at that moment, regardless of what I knew about you.
Hmm.
So in that sense, it's kind of I start discovering you, if you will. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's like in any relationship. You you meet someone and then you find out things, what they like, how they are, how all of those things. And what is very apparent in my work is about taking people as they are. That's all it is. I mean, I'm no power over people. I mean, I can't expect people to be something that they're not. What's the point? I mean,
Right.
that's life will be very, and it becomes very difficult. And and to some degree, that's what I want to shed lights on because most of us, at some point in moment, we keep expecting people to be the person that we want them to be for
Right.
our own reasons. I'm not even saying selfish reasons. Just we like consistency. We like the things that we want, and so we want people to be in such a way that they don't challenge us in any way.
Right.
So when I started with you, I just took you as my son. And funny because I get emotional. I have this weird way about feeling about people, and one day I'm going to elaborate on that. But but yeah, now that I'm here with you, it's like, oh my God, I miss you, man.
Yeah, I know. I miss you too. I can't believe that it's already been 5 years.
Probably yes, more than that.
Yeah, yeah. The time has flown by.
Yes. So in order for us to start, it's just for people to get to know your journey more than you,
Hmm.
although of course they're going to discover you, but
Hmm.
it's more your journey. And the point is that for people to take some whatever they discover and use it for themselves, because people have tremendous set of tools that they learn, and some of them they master, some of them, and we still not complete, so we're still collecting tools to better ourselves.
Yeah.
But you definitely in your journey you master quite a bit of tools. But let's start this journey with, I will say that, like I said to everyone, I said to everyone, I mean, just only have, you're my second guest, but to everyone is that your journey starts before you were born,
Hmm.
because the people who influence you the most is mom and dad,
Right.
if you will. Could you start from there?
Yeah, I I was in my parents have always been super involved in my life, and I'm super grateful for them. And over the course of living, I felt like I had to always impress and always be the best. And I think that over time, it just loaded up on me that I needed to be presentable to other people. And that was a hard habit to break. Or I don't want to say break, but embrace. More of an embrace. And I had to overcome a lot of emotions and a lot of experiences within my journey. And part of that had to accept that not all people are going to like me or get along with me, but that doesn't stop the value that I have. And I have the control and emotions to be able to embrace them and accept what's happening and still know that I can be whoever I need to be or want to be in my life. And I think trying to undo these stories that I've made up about myself or undo or rethink about that my past traumas don't have to affect me in a negative way. Because I've learned a lot.
When you said, I mean, and of course, this is your personal story, and
Mhm.
like I said to everyone, and for everyone who's listening, the story as you build it is yours and it's true because it is yours. Whether it's true or not, it is true because it leaves truthful to you. It feels like it is, and that's fine. And
Mhm.
then the good thing, an opportunity that we have is to understand that we don't need to invalidate that story, but to bring in the other truth, the one that that we weren't exposed to. So you said this was your truth that you said I needed to be presentable to people. So at that point in moment, being that person, and I mentioned that person because we're going to open up about that part is
Mhm.
that but being that person that you needed to be presentable, what that mean or meant to that little person. Well, I mean, what is it that you needed to do, or how that was experienced for you?
Yeah, I just felt like I always needed to be the best and do my best. And presenting from being a successful child or being a child that is capable of doing a lot, it put a lot of pressure on me. And over time, I felt like those pressures were overcoming who I really was or who I wanted to be. And for example, I grew up as a female and over time, I've transitioned. And I think a lot of that scared me as a child because I felt like I needed to present as a female and I needed to do female things. But inside, I really felt like those things were not right. They didn't feel quite right. And over time, it was harder for me to keep those expectations of myself down because of the way I grew up and being really good at things, whatever those things may be. I felt like I was making a bad choice by being my authentic self.
So
And yeah.
let me ask you a question because so you're mentioning okay, you being born as a female
Hmm.
and then transitioning,
Hmm.
okay, and there is a lot of well, both sexes, but let's say there's a lot of women that are born women and they feel you see they feel different. They feel like they shouldn't be bound by or bound to a particular role and way of being, presenting yourself. I mean,
Right.
the stereotype that society, well, particular society has, you
Hmm.
need to be whatever it is, whatever is the stereotype. You need to be delicate. You need to be this. You need to like men and all that. So, but there is a lot of women that although don't conform, but they just keep being female and, and function well. I mean,
Right.
this is just a question. What was for you in that specific that place that you were living in that say, you know what? No, this is not enough. I just want to be this. I mean, how is the process? So, of course, this happens to a period of time. Could you illustrate, like, could you tell us in that journey, please?
So my journey through transitioning, in the very beginning, I like to say I experienced the honeymoon phase of my transition, and everything was great because I finally was putting myself first, and I was finally accepting these flaws that I thought I had. But I've grown to learn through my transition that I have the ability to be happy and I have the ability to process hard things and still accept them. I think transitioning, once I kind of exited my honeymoon phase, I started getting wrapped back up into these presentations that I needed to be a certain way for society to accept me. But it doesn't matter what society says because I accept myself and I know what I have to offer. And yeah,
And we're going to go uh, more into that because that's when that's kind of the result of that's at the time that you came and worked with me.
yes.
But 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 one part, and I'm gonna press a little bit because I'm curious. I mean, this is just a conversation. This is it's just so you're a female. What what goes into? I mean, let me give you an example, okay, on me, okay. Now I'm exposing myself big
Okay.
time. I discovered very late in life that I was in the autistic spectrum and that I was dyslexic big time, but I didn't know. I organized my life around, without knowing, around that stuff. That not deficiency, but the difference.
Hmm.
But because the command, let's say, that I had in my life is that to be normal, in a way, not only I invalidated the other part of me that is not normal, and and in a way, I make a mess of my life, creating a lot of emotional mayhem that didn't need to be there. The best example that I can say is something like this: is that kind of like I was born, not really because I'm not disabled, but just for the sake of the example, I was born without a leg, but I didn't know. And people assume that I have two legs. So here I am jumping in one leg, spilling all soups, drinks, making a mess of all these things, and people looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And me, to some degree, it's like, what's wrong with me? So here I am, 6 years old man, that at the age of 60 or something like that, I discovered, dang, I'm really this thing. And now pay attention. It's not about discovering and fulfill the symptoms, but it's about discovering and observing myself. It's like, oh, I know. Without knowing, loud noises, it may be cringe, and my response was getting angry. I didn't know.
Hmm.
Now I just a loud noise. I just okay, let it be. Or when I feel overwhelmed by so much people around me. Before I used to have different kind of behaviors. Now I don't. Now I know it, so I can retreat. So what was for you when you discover, okay, here I'm a female, here I am a female, and then what's going on?
Right. Yeah, it's
So
definitely the same kind of feeling, where I just wanted to be normal and I just wanted to feel right. And it took me years, years, over a decade because I started feeling these feelings as a child and they just kind of built up as I became an adult.
so you're a child. So you say you're come on, say you're 7 years old
Hmm.
and you're at school. How's that? I mean, what's going on when you see this environment and you see boys being boys, girls being girls, and then you. I mean, how that's. I hope the questions are not that invasive, but
No, it's okay.
take us there.
Yeah. It was very uncomfortable because young, I didn't think twice about, oh, that's a boy and that's a girl. But then when you start going through puberty and you start getting older, you know, I wanted to be that boy. I wanted to go hang out with the boys. I wanted to have a short haircut. I wanted to be able to, take my shirt off when I went swimming. There is things that I greatly, greatly, greatly not only wanted, but needed, but I felt like I didn't have any control over that. And even into adulthood, I felt that same way. I felt like that little kid somewhere deep
So
inside of me.
here you are wanting to be, I mean, taking your shirt off, having short hair, and do, I mean, just being a regular boy.
Hmm.
Take us a little bit into, okay, here I am. I want to be that, but this is what I'm feeling. So what happened at that moment?
It
What
caused
were your thoughts? What were your feelings about it?
it caused a lot of anxiety, and it caused a lot of depression, as a child, because I didn't think I could do those things. I felt like I couldn't do those things. And I was also getting praise a lot as a female because I would be able to hang with the boys or be better than the boys. So it was
Mm.
this weird combination of anxiety from not feeling right in my body, but also getting praise as a female for doing these miraculous things, which I felt like were just normal to me.
Mm.
And really, how do I say? I just felt so much intense emotions that I would like physically get sick and I would miss school, and I just felt like I was the child that stuck out of everybody because I was crying obsessively. I didn't want to be alone, and it caused, just a lot of fear in me, and I felt that fear growing up. I was just afraid of everything. I was afraid to be myself. I was afraid to speak up. I was afraid to um, be a leader of my own pack, and so it caused just so much anxiety, and that carried along with it.
Going back into the anxiety, rather than me trying to figure it out. So what was the anxiety about?
The anxiety was that I felt like I was not doing enough, that I needed to do more. My anxiety was afraid of standing out at the same time, which is weird because I was involved in a lot of sports and I was, good in school, so I would get recognized for these things. But at the same time, I was afraid to stand out like that. So there was so much anxiety around people staring at me or people wanting to talk to me. It made
So
me, yeah.
you said so anxiety of being alone.
Hmm.
What that means? I mean, being alone from whom?
I just felt like I was afraid of being abandoned, I guess. I was afraid of being left behind if I didn't do these specific things. I felt like I was going to be forgotten about because I wanted to be a boy. And I felt
And
like that was abnormal.
it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's normal to feel that you're abnormal because
Hmm.
I mean, this is it's everybody's journey, you know.
Hmm.
And that's I think that that's what is powerful about personal journeys, that they're not dictated by other people, because in reality that's personal struggle.
Hmm.
But I don't say struggle in a sense like, oh my God, this is so horrible, but it's about our own evolution, if you will.
Hmm.
And the good thing about life is that hopefully my evolution never ends. I'm here. I don't believe to be. I mean, 66 years old right now, way different than when my dad was 66 years old, and probably it's gonna be way different when you become 6 years old. So it doesn't look the same. But the point is that I want to always have challenges within myself to be able to expand. So when you said afraid of standing out, what do you think will happen? Because it's interesting. You did the things
Hmm.
that somehow put you out there, but I think we need to look at it into the right context. Is you did it because that's what you wanted it to do, just because that's who you were.
Right.
But at the same time, it's putting you out there into something that you don't want to be, maybe, and you might not be clear about it, but at that point in moment, but that you didn't want. So why was it that you didn't want to stand out
I
at
think
that moment?
I think I just didn't want to be laughed at. I didn't want to be thought of weird. I wanted to really blend in. And yeah, I just really wanted to try and blend in and not stand out. And I think it was because I recognized that I was different.
Mm.
And I was afraid that other people would also see that I was different.
And that different was at that moment. What is it that you thought about yourself being different? What you were different
I just thought,
about?
the first thing before even my gender identity, I knew I liked, women or girls. And the first thing I thought of is people are not gonna like me to laugh at me or think I'm gross, you know. Um, those were my fears originally. And then when it started to develop into my gender identity, I had those same types of feelings that I had as a kid when I was realized that I was attracted to women. And so I was just worried that I would be alone because of those differences.
Okay. Hmm. And at this time, how old are you?
I want to say I was probably around 7 years old when I really started understanding more about myself in that way. And that went all the way until I transitioned, and I transitioned at 28. So it took years and years of me thinking these same things and believing them because I was telling myself these negative things.
This 21 years, I mean, this period of 21 years. I mean, you said that you transitioned when you were 28,
Mhm.
and you said that you already kind of accepted your being liking women.
Mhm.
Did you date exclusively women, or did you try to be normal?
I tried to become normal, and I didn't want people to see that side of me. So I had a boyfriend throughout.
What side of you? Which side of you? Which one? Which side of you you didn't want to see?
I didn't want people to see the side of me that I didn't present. So I didn't want
Mm,
them to see me wanting to be a boy. I didn't want them to see me liking girls. I wanted really badly just to be like everybody else.
mm. Very challenging.
Hmm.
Very. So how did he? So understanding that that play some kind of role in you presenting the person that you wanted it to present, how that felt as you were not being. I don't want to put words on your mouth, but how did it feel you dating men? You not only feel physically, but in terms of okay, so you have this profound belief and you're already clear about it. It's not like you're not.
Hmm.
But then the tug of war is like wanting to belong to that you thought that you needed to belong to
Hmm.
and what you were living in.
Yeah, I felt it felt wrong for me to do those things. I felt like I was going against values that others have put into me, and it felt it didn't feel real. It felt like you said, I was playing this role. It felt like I was pretending this whole time just to make other people happy or to give myself less anxiety. But the further I continued down that road, the more it just felt wrong. And I remember the first time I kissed a girl, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this just felt so right. And when I discovered that, I think part of me started to accept, but still be afraid because now I kissed a girl. I actually did it. And it was like the most exciting, but also the most scary revelation that I've made because it felt
Mm,
right. But
mm,
are people going to accept it? And that was just always in my mind, like, what are other people going to think?
mm. Not being presentable, huh?
Hmm. Yeah.
That's so that's so tough because you see a lot of people have um, all kinds of conflicts within themselves. And the main problem that I found with all my clients is the inability we human beings are have to accept our own limitations, if you will.
Hmm.
I mean, not that I'm not saying and not comparing this like you're doing anything wrong. You just finally say, you know what, not being me is wrong.
Hmm.
And there is a lot of people who does a lot of stuff, who do a lot of stuff, and they never or they're unable to face themselves and say, you know what, this is not who I am. This is the one I'm somehow triggered to be different than you. You know, there's people who manipulate. They're not willing to acknowledge that they manipulate, that they have issues themselves.
Hmm.
You know, once we accept that, we can once we embrace that, we can start to discover the core of who we really are. And in your case, your core of who you really are is who you became.
Right.
And but the whole journey and what I see trying for you, it was to really weed out being accepted. You
Mm.
see, people who are making stuff, they always we always want to be right, meaning protected in such a way that everybody thinks that we're correct. But it's sometimes difficult for us to live with somebody else's acceptance. And I'm not saying just do whatever you want and don't care about what people think, because we know what is appropriate and what is not. You're not going to kill. You're not going to steal. You're not doing anything to anyone.
Right.
So I think that journey is tough and lonely. So here you are, and I only mention that because it's fun a little bit, because at the end of the day, this podcast is about people getting to know themselves.
Hmm.
And as I'm speaking with you, and as I told you before, when I was working with you, I was learning a lot. I always learn from my clients. I mean, I will hate the time that I will say, oh, I already know everything. It's like I'm detached from the journeys of people that I work with.
Hmm.
So here you are. When did you decide that you say, you know what, I'm going to exclusively date women? What and why and how was it? And how was it when you came out as a female, like females, to your family? How was that? Or what? And how was that? And not only the moment, but how was the journey?
I had a lot of fear, and I hid this part of me from my parents and my friends for, a long time because I didn't come out to my parents or everybody as liking women until I was 18 years old. And, I hid a relationship from my parents, with my first girlfriend. And it was tough because I felt like I was being sneaky and I felt like I was hiding who I was. And I didn't like feeling that way. And I just wanted to accept myself so badly. But it took me some time, and eventually I did tell my parents because I just felt like I couldn't keep living the way I was. And I knew at some point I was going to have to face the truth, my truth. And my truth was that I was attracted to women and it felt right. And there's nothing wrong with, being attracted to someone of the same sex. And that was something I had to accept myself before I told anybody. And it took, a lot of work to be honest with myself.
So let me ask you a question. So you came out to your parents and told them this is the way I feel.
Hmm.
At any moment after the age of 18, did you date men?
No.
Or after that point in moment, it was you decided, oh,
Yeah. Yep.
okay.
Basically, once I had my first girlfriend, I knew that that was right. And I just didn't have that connection with men that I did with women. And when I told my parents, they already knew. And so it's like I was so worried about disappointing them or disappointing, other people in my family, people that I care about, when they accepted me and knew already. And so it was a giant load off my back, really, feeling like that they accepted me and it was okay. And, I'm not going to lie, at that time, it felt like because I had their acceptance, I had more acceptance of myself. And I changed a lot since I've transitioned, 10 years later. I now feel like I don't need that validation from others to feel validated for myself.
Yeah, and we talk about that because actually, again, this is what we work with.
Hmm.
Now you're 18, you just say, okay, this is what I want, this is how I feel, and this is I'm going to follow what I experience from inside because it's not. I don't think it's just a feeling, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, when I was growing up, I really didn't have any particular feelings, but I remember hanging around with some friends in high school, and actually these two I didn't know they were gay, and they took me to a gay bar and whatever. I was cool, you know. Actually, some guy came like this and say, "Hey, would you like to dance?" And I say, "Oh no, I don't." So I don't have that particular thing. Like I'm surprised or anything like that. Could I have explored? Maybe not, but it's not like oh my God, that wouldn't happen.
Hmm.
So the point of that is that the thing is just not a feeling because a lot of people, some of my clients have feelings as they grown up, you know, attraction, physical attraction, you know, and uh, and then being straight. So it's not about a feeling. Okay, I now all of a sudden I feel this about men, and then okay, that's it. I mean, could you do that? Absolutely, go for it. You know, but the point that I'm driving is this is not just feeling.
Hmm.
You start to experience this, and by the way, so you now it's like, oh, okay, this is me. Now you're 18, you're clear about what you experience yourself from inside and outside. You're a woman
Hmm.
completely. How and how the feeling and the thought of actually, I'm not only not a woman inside, but I'm not a woman outside. So how was that? How that started?
My transition and my gender identity was really, really pushed so deep inside of me. I was completely terrified of the fact that I would look at boys or look at guys and just be like, I just wanted to be them so badly. And that really scared me so much that I pushed it so far down. And then when I started accepting myself in small ways, like when I started accepting that I liked women, it was almost like the stuff on top of my transition was slowly raising to the top. And the further I went into my relationships with other women, the more I realized that I didn't feel like a lesbian or I didn't feel like a woman. And I had these feelings as a child, but I didn't understand them. And I really didn't think that I could change who I was. Or maybe not change, but I didn't think that I could fully be who I was naturally because I've always, been a boy deep down inside. And so when I started having real clear indications that I don't think it's normal for everybody to question their gender. And at the time, I was in a serious relationship with another female, and I was terrified to lose that relationship if I started to be myself. And I let those things really affect me.
So when you said to, okay, now you clearly for, let's say, this female that you're in a relationship with, clearly she knows what she likes,
Mhm.
and you know, and she likes who you are in the moment,
Right,
which is another female that likes females,
right.
and you've just been this female liking this other female. But when you say really being yourself, what that means, and explain that what that means, and also how you expected this person to react to what you mean is being truly yourself.
Yeah, when I first, because I was trying to hide who I was, I had really long hair, I wore makeup, I don't want to say super girly clothes, but I wore female clothes. And I felt like I was playing this role because that's how she met me. And,
Okay.
I felt like if I cut my hair, if I stopped wearing makeup, if I accepted myself as a transgender man, what is she going to think? Is she going to leave me? Is she going to abandon me? Which kind of brings back to my childhood fears and anxieties of, being left because of who I am. And, I really, really expected her to accept me. But when she didn't, it really, it really almost validated these false thoughts that I had in my head about myself of I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve this, or any bad thought, I felt like I deserved those bad thoughts. And instead of looking at who I was and accepting myself, I felt like I couldn't because I was looking at everybody around me for their validation on their transition. And so it was a big time in my life when I was really experiencing a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety. And it was preventing me from not only me being myself, but it was preventing me from all good opportunities that could come to me because I was just in such a negative thought.
Mm.
It's kind of like they say, like, if you give positivity, you get positivity. And I wasn't doing that. I was so negative on myself that I was accepting bad things happening to me. And when it came down to my relationship with this person, we did end up breaking up when I started to put myself first and when I started to transition. And that was also another hard reality because that was my main fear. I was afraid of being left. I was afraid of being abandoned if I was myself. And here I am being myself, and here I am abandoned, and here I am left alone by the person who I cared most about at the time. So
Mm.
it was a very hard reality that hit me, and it was hard to accept those
Wow. Stuff,
things. Hmm.
stuff. Because when we look at the world from a perspective, everything looks very quite simple because we don't know the struggles. The only struggle that we value and then we make a big deal about it is our own struggles. And sometimes some of them they're not really a big deal. I mean, we have the tendency to be really negative because the brain is designed to protect us. Because it's designed to protect us, it's constantly looking for crap,
Hmm.
basically. our brain, in when it comes to an emotional being, is like a fly. It's always looking for crap. And then in a journey is how can we become more like a bee?
Hmm.
You know, bee, it always look for honey, and because you always look for honey, you always find honey.
Right.
And so that's the fly finds what he looks for. So the struggle is real and tough. I mean, it's play within ourselves, but it can be very dark. It can be very dark and very lonely.
Yeah.
So finally, you decide, okay, I want to transition. How that came about? I mean, please, like, okay, when, because that's very radical. I mean, I understand the struggle and want it and all that. How that idea came up? How that idea went into your brain?
Well, after, I would, on social media, I would follow other trans men, and I would just become obsessed with following, finding out what did they do to get where they're at, because I want that so badly. And once I was honest with myself and honest with my girlfriend at the time about me wanting to transition and that I'm going to transition because it feels right and it feels good. And I see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit. We ended up breaking up. She wanted to be with, another female. And for me, I felt like I had nothing to lose at that point. I lost my girlfriend, who I was terrified to lose, but I still had the love and support of my family. I came out to my mom. She was the first person I told that I was trans, and she was also the first person I told that I liked girls. So I felt really safe having come out already once to her to come out again. And, I thought that coming out as trans would be easier because I had to come out already, but I found it even tough because not only do I transition, but people around me have to transition with me. And
Hmm. How's that? Yeah, I get it, but how's that?
yeah, so if I change my name like I did, I don't want to be referred to my old name anymore. And that requires other people changing the way they speak to me. And I think that I felt guilty, I guess, a little bit in having that happen, but I was just so depressed and so low at the time that I was almost just like, I don't care. I don't care if you're upset. I don't care if you disagree, because I'm just so unhappy with where I'm currently at that the only way out of here is up. And I just felt like at that moment I had nothing holding me back because I felt like I didn't have anything to lose. Um, and so when I started socially transitioning, I was greeted with the most respect that I've ever received. And everybody in my life just about accepted who I was, which right now it's not a big deal because I accept myself. But at the time, people's acceptance of me was really important. And at the time, having their acceptance of me made me so much more confident and comfortable with the journey that I was taking and about to take. And so transitioning really, really saved my life. And it took a lot from, I have to give, my old self a lot of credit because she did so much for me. And she was so strong for Mason, who I am now. And if she didn't go through a lot of those traumas and experiences and fears, then I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have now. And so transitioning has been one of the greatest blessings. Even though I lost my girlfriend, I have a new relationship now, and I feel seen and I feel heard and I feel love from somebody that sees me truly who I am as I am.
That's great. Before we go there,
Mhm.
now, so now you, how old were you when you came to work with me?
see, I was 34 now. So 6 years ago.
You kidding me?
Yeah.
So you were just you just transition at that point,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is important for people because when you came to, we met once a week, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, once a week. I still have fond memories of that, by the way.
Yeah.
Mhm. Uh, the biggest concern, if you will, this is what I remember. So you were working at this shoe company,
Hmm.
and one of your concerns, as it is for everyone, we all want to be accepted. We all want to be liked. But correct me if I'm wrong of what I remember, okay?
Hmm.
Because at that moment, as I met you as Mason. So I have absolutely no, I mean, me seeing you as Mason and accepting you as Mason, it, I mean, it's a given. I mean, it's just what it is.
Right.
But I think that at the time, you weren't fully, you were fully Mason, but in some degree, you needed for people to kind of, and of course, I'm expanding this thing. I hope you let me know if I'm wrong, but it's more like to some degree, you wanted it for people to accept your journey and see you in your journey and accept you as the man that you are, meaning as a man who is transitioning instead of accepting a man.
Hmm.
Kind of the work was for you to be, this is me. And if you don't know my journey, it doesn't matter. This is who I am right now. Because in many ways, we want acceptance. We want it. And like you said, your your validation from your mom and your family was very important. And I want to mention something that we spoke before. It's about my own daughter.
Hmm.
Because my daughter came, I never been homophobic, never been. But for me, I mean, it's not that it doesn't matter. It's like it's not my business. It's not even my business. It's just you are who you are. I mean, whatever you do is what you do. It doesn't matter to me.
Hmm.
But and this and I mentioned this for and let's see if this somehow help people in some ways. It's because I come from a culture, Colombia, that I'm used to. Okay, men marry women and women marry men. I mean, that's how it is. Um, Not being a macho man and all that, that's part of my culture. It's like if you ask me, stop being Colombian, how am I going to be Colombian? How am I going to stop to be Colombian? Yes, I'm much reduced, watered down Colombian because I've been living in this country for 40 years, more than I live in Colombia. But I'm still Colombian, so I can't stop being Colombian. So there is some thoughts that comes with that. Like I I was expecting a daughter, I mean a man, son, when my daughter came out. We didn't want to know what was her sex. I remember being waiting and then the nurse coming down and showing me and then took out the blanket and then I'm looking at this thing in between her legs. And in my head, like something is missing. But that's automatically. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just that's my brain expectation was. And of course,
Hmm.
I adore my daughter. I mean, it's so important to me. The same way, when she came as a person who doesn't like a relationship with men, for me it was like, why not? This is how it should be. I wasn't chastising, you just an outcast. No, it wasn't like that. It took a while, so she brought her girlfriends around. I tended to them and all that. Profoundly, as culture wise, a little bit in my head, it was more like, yeah, I want to see you with a man. I mean, kind of organizing life around me
Hmm.
and what I believe. So we have this conversation. At some point in moment, I told her, look, this is how I think because this is where I'm come from. The most important thing is that you validate you. So you don't need to live your life depending on somebody else's thoughts or feelings.
Mhm.
And I mentioned that from my part as a father, because maybe a father might be having maybe a stronger issue with her kids liking the same sex. But at that point in moment, you actually, I mean, it's a huge parenthesis that I made there. You came and you needed that validation. You see, it seems like you wanted the validation of your whole journey and validate you as you are rather than being who you are. So how was that transition for you?
You
Because
know,
that's another transition.
yeah, it wasn't an easy transition. It took a, we, I feel like it was months before I started understanding what you were teaching, and I came every day with an open mind, and I really had to dig deep inside and be like, yes, I do that, or yes, I don't do that, or I should do that, or whatever it was. And it took me a long time to learn that I'm Mason, and no matter my journey, no matter how proud I am, I can still be Mason without having to explain myself. I felt like I always needed to explain myself a lot of the time, to my friends or to people I just met. It's like, who cares? I just needed to be Mason. And Mason is a good guy that likes to get along and wants to have a good time. And that's all that needed to be shown to society. And I I got so deep into my transition, and it makes sense that I would. It's my transition, it's my life, it's my body, it's my friend circle, it's my family, it's all this involved around me. Um, but I needed to look at the bigger picture that I'm finally who I am now, and it's all because I stopped looking for validation from other people. And then once I became Mason, then I started making up in my head new expectations that I needed to do for myself. And it was exhausting. Instead of me
Mm.
just being like, this was my journey, this is where I'm at. I'm just gonna go live my life now because I'm happy with who I am. And I felt like I needed to teach everybody that I met that this is what happened, or this is why you should respect me, basically. And it took me a long time to really understand what I was doing. And I was telling myself in my head that I need to be the most muscular guy. I need to go to the gym all the time. And it was just, I was repeating the cycle of what I did when I was young. And as an adult, it was becoming harder because I had more thoughts and I had more emotions and I had more feelings, and I understood what my brain was doing. But it really took me months to kind of look at the bigger picture instead of looking at these little specks of my life and looking for areas that why people should respect me. And so it took me a while.
Yeah, I think that was very well. Congratulations, because it takes a lot of effort.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not simple. When we talk about it, and when you said it, and I'm listening on my side also, is that we don't seek validation. That doesn't mean that we don't like it. I mean, who doesn't want validation? Who doesn't want? I want to be loved by everyone. And whoever say don't is lying. Because let me tell you, if you go to a supermarket and the cashier is treating you like crap, you're going to be upset.
Yeah.
If you don't care about being liked, then you would say, "Oh, I don't know what's going on with her. Doesn't matter." And then as you walk in, as you walk out, you completely forgot about it. But no, we get all wrapped up in this, uh, how dare you, and all that, because we want to be liked by everyone. Of course it is. But it's tough wanting being liked and be okay not being liked. Because, like you said, you're choosing to be free. And in that context, you will attract people who are consistent with you and without the ones who are not. But if we are constantly appealing to the crowd, we're going to attract people that are not consistent and that not trustful because you're presenting someone that is not the true you.
Hmm.
Freedom comes from there. And at the same time, yeah, you without people or people without themselves because they might not like specifically you. It has nothing to do with you. There's nothing wrong. It's just people happens to like someone else. And in my journey, it's been kind of the same because I have my own set of rejections, big ones, and some other people that love me no matter what, and the people that I'm surprised that they love me so much before I even knew they loved me much, and they love me or they have shown love and appreciation for me just by being me. But like you said, I needed to be me,
Hmm.
different than you. I just find out 5 years ago. So
But
now you have a relationship. Tell me, how is that? What kind of relationship? Who is she? I mean, this, and then of course, she knows that obviously that you transitioned. How is all that? How that happened?
well, after my previous relationship, I was single for a long time, and I was really taking that opportunity. And this was in the beginning of my transition too. So it was a combination of me being single and me transitioning. I was taking the bull by the horns, and I was going to focus on myself. And throughout my transition, I was learning to accept myself more and more as time went on. And we actually met on TikTok. It's really funny. I posted a video, and I was just being honest, and it was reasons to date a trans man, and I was listing things of why they should date a trans man. That we're sensitive. We understand what women go through. Et cetera, et cetera. And she commented on that video, and we just basically started talking, and we never stopped talking after that. And so right now we're in a long distance relationship, but I've never felt more connected to somebody and accepted by somebody just naturally. I didn't feel like I needed to really explain anything because she really did come to me. And you were talking earlier about if we want good things, we will find good things. And I really feel like that I was just because I was taking care of myself and I was focusing on myself for so long, 4 years. I really felt like I was attracting what I was giving off, if that makes sense. And so,
Hmm.
when we first started dating, I didn't need to really come out to her because she knew I was trans. And so I didn't need to explain anything because she knew I was trans. And I think the best part about her is that she's an amazing human being. She's extremely, extremely um, loving and accepting. I just never felt so seen and so heard before by somebody that I just met. And it gave me a lot
Mm.
of comfort because I felt like I didn't need to pretend to be somebody. I didn't need to be a certain way for someone to like me. Like she just naturally liked me for who I am, and she accepts me for who I am. And I've never been in a relationship where I feel like I could just be myself and not worry about them leaving me or them abandoning me. And so it's been probably one of the greatest blessings that I could have ever encountered.
And for what you told me when we connected a couple months ago, that you guys are engaged.
Yes, yeah, we do plan on getting married, so thank
Congratulations,
you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I'm I'm very happy that we have this opportunity to talk. Hopefully, this somehow helps someone.
Mhm.
And my invitation is for you to be a bee listener, because if you want to be a fly, you're gonna find a lot of stuff to pick and a lot of things to not like. Mason, thank you very much
Oh no, thank you.
for being part of this. Yeah, for sharing your story, because at the end of the day, is that if you can touch and affect somebody's life, one person, I mean, that's enough. Thank you for being so open, for sharing your story, and so we'll see when we can communicate again.
I know, yeah, we'll have to make a trip down to Southern California.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we go, so you're welcome to be home. If you like uh, Mexican food, my wife is a great cook.
Oh yes, it's my
So
favorite.
I definitely would like to see you. And if you come with your girlfriend,
Hmm.
with your fiance,
Hmm.
it will be even better.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to make a trip out to California. She's never been to Southern California, so
No? Okay.
yeah, I know.
There you
There
go.
you go.
Now you have the opportunity. All right, my friend?
All right, yep, let's do it.
So very nice seeing you. I'm doing really good.
Good, good.
Doing really good.